What would you do if the person you waited months to marry never arrived? And instead, a fierce young Apache woman stepped down from the wagon, walked right up to you, and asked a question no woman had ever dared to ask a cowboy before. Do you want me as a wife? Or just for fun? This question changed his life and began one of the most unexpected romances in the Wild West. So before we begin, subscribe, share, and comment your thoughts. Now let's get started this story. The cowboy rejected all of them. Every woman who stepped off the wagon trains heading west, every settler girl who brought warm biscuits or shy smiles, every trader's daughter whose family hoped for a good match. Daniel Reed always stepped back, polite yet distant, offering the same quiet apology. He simply wasn't the man they were looking for. People whispered that something was wrong with him, that he was cold-hearted, that he didn't understand affection. But the truth was simpler and far lonelier. Daniel had never felt anything real for anyone, until the day the Apache caravan arrived. They came like a moving storm of color and dust, warriors on horseback, elders wrapped in patterned blankets, and young women riding with calm dignity. The sun shimmered on polished beads, feathers, and turquoise stones as the wagons slowed to a stop near the settlement. Men rushed forward with excitement, hopping to catch the eye of the Apache girls whose grace and strength were already the subject of legends. Daniel stood at a distance, arms folded, watching quietly. He had no intention of choosing a bride. He didn't believe his heart worked like other men's. But the moment she appeared, everything inside him shifted. She did not step down from the wagon like the others. Instead, she rode in on a dark brown horse, sitting tall and steady as the animal moved with silent pride. Her hair was long, woven with red thread and tiny beads. Her eyes were sharp but calm, filled with a fire that didn't burn. It measured. She moved with the quiet authority of someone who understood herself completely. Her name, whispered among the warriors, was Naya. While other men hurried to her, eager to impress, Naya barely glanced at them. She dismounted with slow, deliberate grace, brushed dust from her skirt, and walked past every admirer without a smile. Daniel tried not to stare, but something about her presence pulled at him like a rope tightening around his chest. She seemed untouched by the noise around her, untouched by expectations. And then, unexpectedly, her gaze found his. It wasn't flirtation. It was assessment, sharp and unblinking, as though she already knew something he didn't. Daniel looked away first, but she kept watching him. The crowd quieted slightly, sensing she wasn't interested in any of the men already circling her like eager wolves. Finally, Naya stepped toward him, straight toward him, her footsteps soft but confident. The others moved aside, stunned by her choice. She stopped at arm's length from Daniel, tilted her head slightly, and spoke in accented English. "You are Daniel Reed," he nodded, unsure what else to say. "You rejected all the women," she added, her voice calm and direct. He felt heat rise to his face. "I didn't mean disrespect," he said gently. "I just never felt something true." Naya studied him closely, eyes narrowing, not in anger but curiosity. "Many men lie about their hearts," she said. "You do not seem one of them." A long pause followed, heavy with unspoken meaning. Then she stepped closer, so close he could see the fine red thread woven through her braid. "Then I will ask you one question, only once." Daniel swallowed, unsure if he was ready. "Ask," he whispered. Her eyes locked on his with fierce intensity. "Do you want me as a wife or just for fun?" Gasps rippled through the men nearby. It was not a question women asked in her culture or his. It was bold, dangerous, honest. A test of his character. Daniel's breath caught. For a moment he forgot the entire world existed. Then he answered, voice steady, "Neither." Her expression tightened. "Neither. I don't want a wife I choose like a tool," he said. "And I don't want someone for fun. I want time to know you, to earn the right to speak of marriage." For the first time, a flicker of surprise crossed Naya's face. She exhaled slowly, as though weighing the truth in his words. Daniel didn't reach for her, didn't try to impress her. He simply waited. Finally, a small, nearly invisible nod formed. "Then walk with me," she said. Without another word, she turned and began walking toward the open land beyond the settlement. The men around them stared in disbelief. Out of everyone, settlers, traders, ranch hands, she had chosen the one man who had no intention of choosing anyone. And Daniel followed her, his heartbeat unsteady, unsure what waited ahead. They walked beyond the camp until the noise faded behind them. The desert stretched out wide and silent, glowing under the afternoon sun. Naya walked with the fluid confidence of someone who belonged to the land. Daniel kept a respectful distance, watching her movements, trying to understand why this woman, out of hundreds, had stirred something inside him he didn't recognize. She didn't speak until they reached a ridge where the wind carried the scent of sage and dust. "If you want to know me," she said quietly, "you must know I am not soft, I am not obedient, I am not here to be chosen." Daniel nodded. "Good," he said. "I don't want someone who bows." She looked at him sharply, surprised by the honesty in his voice. They talked for nearly an hour. Naya told him about her people, her uncle the chief, her mother's teachings, the pains she had survived. Daniel told her about ranch work, loneliness, and the way the frontier shapes a man's heart whether he wants it or not. They spoke not as strangers seeking approval, but as two people unknowingly searching for a reflection of themselves. And in small, subtle ways, they found it. When they returned to the settlement, the sun was sinking behind the mountains, turning the sky gold and crimson. Chief Koya, Naya's uncle, approached them with the silent authority of a man who could read truth with a glance. "You walked long with my niece," he said, his voice deep. Daniel bowed his head. "She asked me to." The chief studied him carefully, eyes dark and steady. "Many men want her," he said, "most for the wrong reasons." Daniel held the chief's gaze. "I won't take anything she doesn't offer freely." After a long moment, the chief nodded. "Then she may speak with you again." Over the next several days, Daniel and Naya met under the open sky, sometimes walking along dry riverbeds, sometimes riding horses through tall grass and dusty trails. They spoke about everything, fears, dreams, beliefs, and the strange pull neither could explain. Daniel found himself waiting for each sunrise with restless anticipation, knowing it meant he would see her again. Naya was different from anyone he had ever met. She did not try to impress him, nor did she hide her strength. She carried herself with pride, with certainty, and with a quiet fire that made him feel alive in ways he never had. Gradually, Naya began revealing pieces of herself he knew she didn't share with many. She told him about the raids that had taken members of her family, about the anger she once carried, and the decision to let that anger die so she could live differently. Daniel listened with full attention, never interrupting, never assuming he understood her pain. She watched him closely during these moments, testing his sincerity. And each time he answered her honesty with more of his own, she softened just a little, letting down walls that had taken years to build. One evening, as the sky turned violet and the first stars appeared, Naya stood on a cliff overlooking the valley and said quietly, "My spirit does not push you away." Daniel didn't fully understand the meaning, but he felt the weight of it. When he asked what she meant, she explained that her people believed the spirit recognized truth before the mind. "I do not know yet if you are my partner," she said, "but something in me listens when you speak. That is not small." Daniel felt warmth spread through him. "I feel something too," he whispered. But her uncle, Chief Koya, was not a man who simply accepted words. He needed proof that Daniel would stand with Naya's people as firmly as he stood with her. One morning, he approached Daniel with two warriors and said, "If you wish to walk beside my niece, you must show the strength of your spirit." Daniel nodded, expecting a test. What he didn't expect was to ride out for 3 days with a group of young Apache hunters as they traveled through rough, dangerous land, protecting their people from bandits and animals that stalked the desert. But he agreed without hesitation. The journey was harsher than Daniel anticipated. They climbed steep cliffs, crossed rocky canyons, and slept with one eye open. On the second night, a mountain lion attacked their camp, leaping from the shadows with silent fury. Daniel reacted instantly, tackling one of the younger boys out of harm's way and firing a shot that scared the animal off. The warriors saw his courage, his loyalty, and his refusal to think only of himself. By the third day, Daniel had earned not just their respect, but their trust, a rare honor not given easily to a man from outside their tribe. When he returned to the settlement, exhausted and covered in dust, Naya was waiting, her eyes lit up not with excitement but something deeper, steadier, almost proud. She walked toward him slowly, studying his face as though searching for answers he hadn't spoken yet. "You stood with them," she said quietly. "You protected them." Daniel nodded, too tired to speak much, but he managed a small smile. "I only did what was right." Naya stepped closer than she ever had before, so close he could feel her breath. Then now I must ask you the final question. Daniel's heartbeat quickened as she gently placed her hand on his chest, her first touch deliberate and meaningful. Do you still want time? She asked softly. He understood what she meant instantly. She wasn't asking about patience anymore. She was asking whether he wanted a future with her, whether the connection between them was strong enough to step into something real. Daniel swallowed hard, overwhelmed by emotion he could barely articulate. Only if you do, he said. Her eyes softened, glowing like embers. Daniel Reed, I want a future, and I want you in it. Daniel felt the world shift beneath him, as if everything he had ever needed had finally come into focus. He took her hand gently, holding it as though he were holding something sacred. Naya, he said, voice thick with emotion, I want you as my wife, not for tradition, not for peace, not for convenience, for love, for partnership, for life. Her breath caught in her throat. No man had ever spoken to her that way, openly, without claiming or demanding, but choosing her with full heart and equal respect. She squeezed his hand slowly. Then speak to my uncle. The meeting with Chief Koya was silent at first. The chief studied Daniel for a long time, his expression unreadable. Finally he asked, What do you seek? Daniel answered clearly, A life with Naya as equals, as partners with honor. There was another long pause, the kind that makes even the desert wind feel loud. Then the chief placed a heavy hand on Daniel's shoulder and said, Then prepare yourself, my niece has chosen you too. Those words carried more weight than any blessing Daniel had ever received. It was permission, acceptance, and responsibility intertwined. The wedding took place 2 days later on the open land where the cliffs met the wide sky. It wasn't a grand ceremony, no church bells, no crowds, but it was sacred. Warriors stood in a protective circle. Women sang soft, ancient songs carried by the wind. Daniel wore traditional Apache beads given by the chief, while Naya wore a finely woven dress decorated with symbols representing unity and strength. When they stepped toward one another, their hands joined without hesitation, their eyes reflecting something deeper than affection, something closer to destiny. In that moment, two worlds didn't just meet, they chose to walk together. When the ceremony ended and they stood as husband and wife, Naya leaned close to Daniel, her lips brushing his ear. I asked if you wanted me as a wife or just for fun, she whispered, but you answered with something greater than both. Daniel smiled quietly, threading his fingers through hers. I wasn't choosing a wife, he said softly. I was choosing you. And under the vast wild west sky, where legends were born from dust and courage, their love became a story carried across campfires, whispered through generations, remembered not because it was perfect, but because it was true.